So meditation, Tenzin and I have been working on the past few months, is mindfulness of talking. And I got the ideas for this from this very inspiring book by Kramer about the system he developed called Insight Dialogue. So I've tried to follow it faithfully myself. I've taken aspects of it I thought would be really useful and simple to use for me and Tenzin, though I can't guarantee that not exactly how the Insight Dialogue people themselves would do. But I have found these practices extremely useful for thinking about how do you apply mindfulness to everyday life, because everyday life, a lot of it is about talking, it's about interacting. So how can we bring mindfulness to that? Well, one thing Buddha said 2,500 years ago is there's various forms of craving, including what he called the craving to be and to not be. And Kramer interpreted this in terms of relationships as the craving to be in the relationship, in terms of the craving to be, or not be in a relationship, the craving to not be. So the craving to be in the relationship is like to be paid attention, for example, to feel the pleasure of being with someone, or to avoid loneliness, or to receive praise. Of course, one could enjoy or desire these things without craving them, at least I think so. But you may notice that sometimes you actually crave them in the sense that you think you must have these things. And the craving to not be is to not be in the relationship, and talking about cravings in the context of relationships, to be by oneself. For example, to feel the pleasure of one's own company, to avoid blame, to avoid stress or uncertainty of other people, to avoid talking. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with enjoying being with someone or enjoying being by oneself. But maybe notice sometimes you notice there's sort of a craving quality to it, in the sense that you think your happiness depends on these states of affairs, that they must happen. So the following exercises can be done either when talking with someone, as we're about to do, or just when thinking of talking with someone. And we're going to go through the 6 exercises of Insight Dialogue. First one is pause, which means at any point that this is going to be in the context of us having a chat, you simply pause and pay attention to yourself. And that's partly about seeing how you are being aware of how you're reacting to the fact of the conversation, to the fact of social interaction. Now, Buddha pointed out there are various objects of mindfulness, we call the satipatthanas, and the first one is your body, including breathing. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a chat. I'm going to ring these symbols. And then we'll just be mindful of our body. And that can be your breathing. And let's do breathing first, because that's the simplest thing. Or it could be tension in your muscles. It could be the state of your stomach. It could be your posture. It could be whether you're sweating. Sorry, just anything to do with your body. So, shall we do breathing?
Mm.
Yeah? Okay.
Mm.
So first of all, we'll have a little chat. Shall we talk about books?
Yeah.
What books have you read recently that you like?
No.
Noah. Oh yeah. Who was the author of them?
James.
Oh yeah, we saw him interviewed by the school librarian, didn't we? And I thought he's an interesting chap. He's read all the books. How many have you read?
Bang.
Yeah, 2 books, aren't they? What are they about?
It's about people and being others.
Okay. Pause. Mindful breathing. Will you mindful breathing for a bit there? Okay, fantastic. So what we've done is we're mindful of breathing. We've different evenings we focus on different things. Like could be breathing, could be state of the muscles, and often I notice, for example, I was a bit tense up here. Could be your stomach and so on. we've also focused on mindfulness of thoughts, just noticing what thoughts have been, happen to be there in the context of us talking. Now the second satipatthana is what follows from these previous states, namely feelings. And what that means is just whether the mental state that you happen to notice being there is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And so we spent a few evenings just focusing on feelings. When I ring the bell, we'll focus on whether the state we're in is pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral. And then the third satipatthana, what feelings can give rise to, is cravings. And as I said, what's particularly important in the context of the conversation is any craving to be or any craving to not be. Any one of those you want to do? Just in particular? No. Okay. So we went through all of these, and you can see you can spend quite a lot of time on pause, just being aware of any of these things. And then you can pick on one of them at a time, or you can pick on any of them. You're just mindful of yourself, and you see what's there. Now the second instruction is relax. Now that can mean literally relax. When you're pausing, you're mindful, say, of your body and your muscular state. It could be relaxing your muscles, but it also means accept. So when you're mindful of thoughts, you just accept them. That means you can let them go. You're mindful of sensations, feelings, just accept them. Mindful of craving, accept the cravings are there, but don't cling to them. Accept them with equanimity. So let's do this, and shall we do mindful of, we'll pause and be mindful of our muscles, because then we can literally relax the muscles if we notice any tension. All right? So let's carry on talking. So you read, there were two Noah books, weren't you? And you read both of them. Did you prefer one of them?
Yeah, first one.
Yeah, I heard you laughing a lot with that one. Is that why you preferred it?
Yeah.
Because it was funny?
Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. Pause. Okay. Did you notice any tension in your muscles? No. I did in my shoulders, so I could just relax them a bit more than they were. So this is something you can work for quite some time. You can ring the bell and focus on any one of these things, or indeed leave it open which one you're going to pause, be mindful of, and then relax and accept. Now, of course, we're talking about being with someone, talking. And what we've done so far is becoming aware of how we're reacting to the situation, what our state is in the context of communication. But we are with another person. So the next stage is to bring your attention outwards, to open it out to the other person. And you can be mindful of their body, mindful of the thoughts, mindful of the feelings, indeed mindful of any craving state that they might be in terms of being and not being. So let's do pause. Let's say, shall we be mindful of breathing when we pause? Accept whatever we find. And then we'll open our eyes when we're ready and become aware of the other person. We'll open out to them, become aware of their body and maybe breathing. All right. So yeah, the Noah books are good. Are there any other books you've read recently that you like? Yeah. You've actually said Christopher Edge.
Yeah.
That seem to be there. Yeah, they're really good. Any particular books by Christopher Edge that you like?
Jamie Drake.
Yeah, the Jamie Drake equation. Pause. And then now we're opening. You're aware of the other's body. And then we could carry on talking, you see. Let's pause, relax, open. Now the next stage of open is you pause, relax, you open to the other person, and then you flow kindness to them. We do a little bit of that. Okay, so we'll pause, relax, open, and flow kindness to the other person, and then we carry on talking. So yeah, the Jamie Drake equation, what was that about?
Just learning aliens.
aliens.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it those books seem to be about multiverses?
Yeah.
Was that one about multiverses as
Yeah.
well? So these aliens came from another universe,
Yeah.
not just another planet.
Yeah.
Pause. Relax. Mindful of anything in yourself, exactly.
Yeah.
Open. Little kindness
Yeah.
to the person.
Yeah.
Great. So now pause, relax, open means be mindful, accept, be kind, you could say. And this is something you can do throughout the day. Just throughout the day, you could say to yourself, pause and just be mindful of how you are. Be mindful of your breathing if you like. Accept it and then feel kind to people around you. Or you could just do the open part. You can play with it. Now, that one can work with for a long time. Pause, relax, open. I think that's actually extremely sort of useful sequence to think about. Now, the next one is trust emergence, which is emergence is sort of quite a big word as it were, but it means trust whatever comes up in the moment. What that means is, as you're talking, so for this exercise, don't plan while you're listening to the other person. Don't plan what you're going to say next. You just listen, and then you trust that when it comes to you saying something, you're going to say something that's perfectly fine. You don't have to plan it. You can just respond to that moment and everything about that moment to come up with something appropriate. And when I tried this, I found it really useful. I think, especially when it comes to anxiety, because what I made me realise is anxiety often comes about when you think some situation in the future must be a certain way, and if it's not that way, there's going to be dire consequences. So in the context of speaking, for example, you might think, I have to say things a certain way. Imagine giving a public talk, for example. You think, well, I must say it exactly this way. This is the perfect way. That's what can cause anxiety. So trust emergence is another approach to that, is to say, no, the future situation doesn't have to be any particular way. There's lots of ways it can be. So just let happen whatever happens, and know that when you come to it, you'll say something appropriate in the moment.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Sense to you? So that means listening to the person and just being happy with listening to them. And this relates, I often do this together with listen deeply, the next stage. Be mindful of what the person says and let your actions pass so you can listen truly. Because if you had lots of negative thoughts going on, or maybe judgmental thoughts, then that could get in the way of listening to someone. So that's the pause and relax part of it. But also getting in the way of listening to someone is when you're already planning your funny story, or whatever it is you want to say, so you're not truly listening to the other person. So that's not trusting emergence, you see. So to listen deeply, you need to both trust emergence and be pretty good at pause and relax and open. So let's sort of put those last two steps together, and we'll have a conversation. We'll pause, relax, open, and that while we're talking, don't be planning what we're going to be saying next. Just trust emergence and listen to the other person. Okay? So we'll pause, relax, open, carry on talking, and as we carry on talking, we'll trust emergence and listen deeply. So we'll sort of do it in a sequence. It doesn't have to be in the sequence, you see. You could just focus on trust, emergence, and listen deeply. So we'll talk about, do you want to carry on talking about books? Or, yeah, any other books you want to talk about? Those have been the two authors particularly like. But you're reading another book now.
Joe Cowley.
Oh, Joe Cowley you're reading, aren't you? Yeah. Which is, what's that about?
Same thing. There's no answer for it. Interesting.
It's not quite so funny as the no books for.
No one what the first time. So no one. So the first time reading something about that. But no one's heard. No, no one knows the word.
Yeah.
Haven't seen that.
So sort of going over the same material.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Haven't seen that.
No.
First one.
No. So. Okay. Let's pause and relax. trust emergence and listen deeply as we carry on talking. So which I was actually practicing, by the way, in the initial part of the conversation. I was trying not to plan what I was going to say. I was just trying to let things happen when that was happening. Okay. So what do you reckon just now? Were you planning what you're going to say? No, just listening. And then the final step is to speak with mindfulness. You could say speak from the moment of skill, but you could say speak with mindfulness. You could say speak truth if you think of mindfulness as what comes out of mindfulness as being true to oneself. So if you let your words come out of kindness and mindfulness, you can speak with skill. Now that doesn't necessarily mean you just tell people what they want to hear. It doesn't mean speak the truth, doesn't mean you're compelled to say everything that's true. That might not be appropriate. But sometimes you might have to speak the truth with kindness, even though someone else might not want to hear that. So speaking with skill also means being brave in speaking of problems. It might be right to say you feel anger, so speaking of skill doesn't mean it's all airy-fairy and all you do is you say you like and love each other. You might mention anger or negative emotion because it's something you have to deal with. And one way of doing that is not blaming people if you feel some negative emotions, but just to say, when you said that, I felt this. And they might say, oh, okay, I get you. So you don't make the other people feel bad when you're doing it. That's something we've sort of acted out. And one way we've done it is I might, in speaking with Tenzin, say something I think might annoy him. Like, when you do these things, I feel upset. Which might annoy him, or might not, but it's sort of a difficulty, and then we can see how we deal with it. So in sum, the exercises we've gone through, pause, accept, open, trust what emerges, and then listen deeply and speak truthfully from the moment. And that's something we've been doing in these little exercises, say maybe ring the bell or just trying to put something in practice in our talking. But the big thing is then to put that into real practice. So what Tenzin's going to do when lockdown finishes is when he goes to school, first of all, just pause in the context of people there, actually. And then pause, relax, open. Sorry? But a couple of days away, I know. So exciting coming up, and that will be the sort of the real application of the exercises that we've been doing. So I found this really useful, and we're going to carry on working on this. And I've recorded this because maybe these simple ideas might be of use to someone else.